Hello YouTube, hello friends, welcome to Lizziefaye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and I'm here today to bring you part 3 of my Caldecott Medal Winner reading project. And in this video, I would like to share with you the Caldecott Medal Winners of the 1960s. So this will be my last video in this series for a little while because my daughter and I read one Caldecott winner every day for the month of May for something I've always called my Book a Day in May project. And so we will pick back up next year, next May, and continue with the project. There's a possibility that we might go ahead and try to pick up the next couple of decades during the year between now and next May and maybe finish the project by the end of next May. I don't know. We shall see. But for now, I want to share with you the Caldecott Medal Winners of the 1960s. If you haven't seen either of my other two videos in this series, the first one was the Caldecott Winners from 1938 through 1949 because 1938 was the first year that the Caldecott Medal was awarded, and then I did one of the winners of the 1950s, and so now we're just going to the next decade. Now the Caldecott Medal is awarded to an illustrator for a distinguished contribution to children's literature in the United States. Now there's such a large variety of art styles and media that have been used to create the illustrations for these books, and a lot of them are things that I'm not familiar with, and some are surprising, some I just adore, others I'm not a big fan of. So let's just go through each of these and I'll show them to you. You of course can form your own opinions. I will feel free to share my opinions, but let's just take a look at these 10 books of the 1960s. So we'll start with 1960, and this is a Mexican Christmas story. It is called 9 Days to Christmas, A Story of Mexico. It's by Marie-Hall-Etz and Aurora Labastida, and the illustrations are by Marie-Hall-Etz. And this is just a sweet story about a little girl who is waiting for Christmas. I'll show you an example of some of the artwork. Most of the illustrations are neutral with a splash or two of color put in, and that does make a very striking contrast. This, like I said, was just a really sweet story about a little girl who's asking for a piñata, and there she goes shopping for the piñata, and I thought it was very sweet. So I hope that you will get a chance to read that at some point. The next one was an interesting story. This is a Russian Christmas story, and so this one was the winner in 1961. It's called Babushka and the Three Kings. So this is about a grandmother type figure who is visited by the three kings on their way to find the Christ child, and they invite her to come with them to see the Christ child, and she says that she can't go. Her work is not finished. Then she later regrets it and begins to a journey to find them, and along the way she leaves little presents for children as she goes. So it is kind of a Santa Claus type story. Apparently this is one of the Russian legends of Christmas. Now the story was interesting in and of itself, but I was not a fan of the artwork. Mainly the faces. I mean, from the side view, you know, this is what it's from the side view, but when you use this art style translated to the front view, it is a little scary, I think, if I was a young child. I don't know that I would really enjoy seeing this book as a little child. But anyway, it is what it is, as they say. So I was not a huge fan, but the story was interesting. I had not ever heard that version of a Christmas story. And the story is told by Ruth Robbins, and the illustrations are by Nicholas Sijakov. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Now the next one I am just fascinated by. This is called Once a Mouse by Marcia Brown. And on the inside flap, it says it is a fable cut in wood. So look at this. Apparently, the art was cut in wood, and that was used, I guess, as kind of a stamp to translate to paper. Isn't that just the neatest thing. I'm just so intrigued by that process. I had no idea you could do illustrations cut in wood for a book. So this is a fable about a man who finds a little mouse, and he feels sorry for the little mouse, and somehow he is able to change this mouse into a tiger. Well, then the tiger gets a little big for his britches, and the man reminds him, remember, you were just a mouse, and, you know, I made you what you are today, and so the tiger has to learn a bit of a lesson, so, you know, definitely worth the read. Now, the next one is by Ezra Jack Keats. It's called The Snowy Day. And I'm not really sure of the process that was used in making this, but it's almost like that some of the elements in the pictures are maybe cut from paper or cloth or fabric and then used to compile the picture. For instance, this looks like it was a piece of fabric that was a part of the picture. And of course, and then the wallpaper, like, was that an actual piece of wallpaper? You know, I don't know, but it's very interesting to look at. And there are a couple of other examples of the clothing that look like they were actual pieces of fabric that were cut out and used to make the picture. It's a sweet story about a little boy who goes out in the snow. Here's the other fabric example. So anyway, definitely worth picking up. The sweet thing is that he brings in a snowball to save for later, and then of course when he's in the house and warmed up, he looks in his pocket and it's completely gone. So it was just really cute. The next one, I believe, is the winner from 1964, and this is probably one of the more famous Caldecott winners. I remember hearing about this one when I was younger. When I finally read it, I didn't really love it. Now, the artwork is really amazing, very detailed, but the story, I never really got it. For one thing, I thought that the little boy was kind of bratty? I hate to use that word, but anyway, I guess, you know, he did sort of learn a lesson from it all, but anyway, this is one of the more famous books, and perhaps you've seen the movie. I don't think I've seen the movie, but if you haven't read the book, then it's worth picking up, you know, at least once. And of course, the words and pictures are by Maurice Sendak. The next one is May I Bring a Friend? This is by Beatrice Schenck de Renier, I hope I'm saying that right, and illustrated by Benny Montresor. In case I'm saying I'm wrong, let me show you the author and illustrator. These pictures are kind of dense, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure what type of media was used to create them. Very detailed. Some are black and white, some are color. I don't know. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's not my favorite type of artwork style, but you know, it gets the job done. The story's about a little child who asks if they can bring a friend to tea. And I think it's the king and queen. And so they continue throughout the story to ask the king and queen if they can bring a friend. Well, the friend they bring sort of wears out their welcome, but yet the king and queen are always gracious, and every time the child asks if they can bring a friend, they of course say, you know, any friend of yours is a friend of ours. And you know, if I had been the king and queen, I would have tried to limit the visits by this child. But anyway, it is a cute story, and definitely worth picking up. Now, the next one is kind of a story of hospitality as well. Always room for one more. It is by Sorcha Nick Leotis, and it's illustrated by Nancy Hogrogian. I hope I'm saying that correct. And it is also signed by the illustrator, too, so that's neat. This is, like I said, a hospitality story about some people in a little home, and anytime someone comes by, they invite them in to the point where there is actually too many. But because they are such wonderful people and always open their home and say there's room for one more, the people who they have invited in eventually build them a brand new home. And so I'll give you a spoiler. In their brand new home, it's very large, and there is plenty of room for everyone that they want to invite. Apparently, this is a song, so the music is here, and it was very enjoyable. Now, the artwork itself, again, is not a style that I am a big fan of. It's a little messy, kind of hard to always make out what is being shown. Some pages are easier to see than others. But anyway, you know, like I said, it's definitely worth picking up. This book I enjoyed a lot. Not the part about the child always lying, but there is definitely a moral to this story. It's called Sam, Bangs, and Moonshine. Sam is short for Samantha, and Samantha doesn't really see the problem with telling a whopper, you know, telling something that is not true. But because of something she says, a friend of hers is in danger, and she, by the end of the story, begins to realize the importance of telling the truth. So here are examples of some of the artwork. Just a little bit of, it's mostly neutrals with a little bit of gold mixed in for accent, and very nice. And a story with a good moral, for sure. This was written and illustrated by Eveline Ness. This one is super cute. I liked the text and the rhyme of this one much better than the actual illustrations, but the illustrations were definitely striking and very colorful. This is called Drummer Hoff, and it is adapted by Barbara Emberly and illustrated by Ed Emberly. So I'm going to guess that that's a husband and wife team. I don't know that for a fact, but anyway, I loved the rhyme of this, and it's kind of almost like a tongue twister in a way. And you can see the artwork is very detailed. It's very colorful. Again, I probably wouldn't have anything negative to say about it if not for the faces. I'm just not a fan of how this style translates into faces. But very interesting and a very entertaining book for sure. And then the last one, in my last video for the 50s, I had started with 1950, and then I got to the last one. I said, this is 1950. No, it was 1959. So this is 1969, not 1960. The Fool of the World and the Flying Ship. This was very entertaining. This is a Russian tale retold by Arthur Ransome, and the pictures are by Yuri Shulevitz. And this is about a young man who was considered very foolish by his family, and he had brothers who were considered very smart. Well, they make an appearance at the beginning of the story and are never seen or heard from again. And the young man, who is known as a fool, turns out to do very well for himself. So he goes off on his own because he wants to do something, have an adventure like his brothers are having, and we get to follow his adventure, and everything works out very nicely for him, and it is just a very entertaining book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay, so I want to show you Emily's favorites, just like I've done in the previous two videos. So this time I did go in chronological order, and I showed her the 1950, 51, and 52, and asked her which was her favorite of those three, and she picked Once a Mouse, and then 63, 64, 65, and she picked Where the Wild Things Are, and then the last was a group of four, and she picked The Fool of the World and the Flying Ship. So then I showed her these three, and I asked her which was her favorite of these three, and she picked The Fool of the World and the Flying Ship. So it was a really good story, and I was not going to argue with her choice. I think I am partial to Once a Mouse just because I'm fascinated with the fact that it was illustrated on wood. Yeah. Anyway, these are our favorites from the 1960s. So these are the 10 books that won the Caldecott Medal in the 1960s. Do you have any favorites? Have you read any of these? Have you read all of these or none of these? Let me know in the comments if any of them look interesting to you, or if you've read some and had a particular opinion about any or all of them. So let me know in the comments. Let's chat about the books. And that is all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.